This is The Great Erectus and Faun, Return to Nolta, Part 1. 3 entities, a buxom half-elf, a deer-like creation entity, and a scruffy hominid in a bathrobe quietly appear on an empty street. So this is Nolta, huh? The half-elf said, looking around. It's nice. I can see why you'd want to save it. I didn't, the hominid replied gruffly. But it's what we're doing now, so... He shrugged. I'm certain that, with your help, mighty flower child, Faun said happily, that we will be able to aid these kind, gentle people. We'll see what we can do, Flower Child said cautiously. The big guy is right, though. The download is a tricky one. She turned to the hominid. You said you had someone gathering the souls? Yeah, I put a local on it, the Great Erectus replied. Damned if I'm going to do the grunt work for the fuckers. There was a local entity and they're allowed this? Flower Child asked, raising an eyebrow. There wasn't an entity, the hominid grinned. I made one. Oh, for fuck's sake, BG, Flower Child groaned. As if this place didn't have enough problems. You transcended a mortal? What the fuck, dude? Hey, they were already disembodied, the hominid shrugged. And they kept begging me to do something, so... He grinned evilly. I did. He chuckled. I gave them the power to fix it themselves. You're an asshole, you know that? The blonde half-elf snickered. It has been mentioned before. The Great Erectus smiled. I just sent them to gathering souls. It shouldn't be too difficult for them. I sure as fuck wasn't going to do it. The half-elf shrugged. So the actual consciousnesses are being collected, she mused. Now all we have to do is install a bridge and a sorter. She looked around. So, where is the Squiggle Pants? He asked. Cuddles? The hominid asked. She decided she was going to go and help 010, make sure he didn't get lost, if you know what I mean. If you didn't trust him, Flower Child asked, then why did you let him come over? Oh, I trust him, the hominid grinned. I'm just letting Cuddles have an excuse for hiding from you. She thinks you're scary for some reason. I can't imagine why, Flower Child snickered. Let's go and find a network access point so I can see what we're dealing with here. There's an abandoned library a few blocks over, the Great Erectus replied. They should have a decent server, if it hasn't been ripped out or anything. Worth a shot, Flower Child replied. A short walk later, the trio stood in front of an empty library. Flower Child extended her index finger, and a series of small wires slid out from underneath her fingernails and into the lock. It opened a second later. What? The Great Erectus snickered. No folding space this time. You used the right tools for the right job, Flower Child replied as the door opened. We have a basic security system inside. Just a motion detector and a switch on the door, which I have already taken care of. Our invisibility should be enough for the rest. Cool. They all entered an absolutely magnificent, if a bit dusty, lobby filled with works of art. Nice, Flower Child said as she looked around. Yeah, the hominid said glumly. These were the pride of the local community. Once. Flower Child paused in front of a small, brightly painted ceramic bug. Next to it was the name Beninia Vinamina, age 6. How nice, Flower Child said, as she placed her hand on it and it disappeared. We're not here to loot, the hominid said with a bit of annoyance. You're not here to loot, Flower Child replied with a little smile. Oh, I like that painting. The painting disappeared. I do hope we can salvage these guys, Flower Child said, as a small bronze bust mysteriously disappeared into thin air. I will make a fortune off of the NFTs. Then again, I'll make a fortune off the NFTs regardless, won't I? What's an NFT? Faun asked. Basically a unique digitized asset, Flower Child replied. I basically de-res the items from the material world, convert it to information, encode it to do some number magic, and have another unique virtual item for my virtual hoard. We trade them back and forth between each other. When you have literally whatever you want, whenever you want, something new or unique becomes the only thing that has any real value. I'm keeping the bug, though. I like it. Flower Child gasped. Look at all those books! There's some real original creative thought in those. Before you loot this civilization, the hominid snarked, maybe you could look into saving it? Sure thing, big guy. Flower Child smiled. There's a server just over there. It still has power and everything. In the library's offices, they all stood around a small file cabinet-sized Nolta computer server. Flower Child made a happy little cooing noise. What a darling little thing, she smiled. After examining it a moment, she pressed a panel on the front, which then swung open, revealing a number of interface ports. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small rectangular rod. The end of it started to flow and shift until it matched one of the ports. She inserted it, and the rear of the rod started to flash green. Let's see what we have here, she said as her eyes unfocused and she seemed to look out into space. Huh, she said after a few moments. These guys actually have a rather nice internet. Nauseatingly wholesome, but nice. Most of it now devoted to the Fuck. What? The hominid asked. Hello there, Flower Child said. Hi, a voice replied as a nearby monitor switched on, revealing a glowing cartoonish Noltan avatar. I'm Uppy. Who are you? My name is Flower Child, she smiled. Are you an administrator? Sure, Flower Child replied. Are you the one in charge of the uploading process? Sure am, Uppy replied proudly. I am the main AI handling the whole thing. Are you still in the world? I thought all the administrators had already ascended. All of the administrators are already uploaded? Flower Child asked. Sure are, Uppy exclaimed cheerfully. I mean, who would want to stick around in dirt space if they didn't have to, right? Mm-hmm, Flower Child said suspiciously. So, are there any people in dirt space who are still involved with the program? Nope, Uppy chirped. They've all ascended. Wonderful, the big guy muttered. It is, isn't it? Uppy exclaimed. They have their own dedicated server and everything. It's really nice. I'm sure it is, Flower Child said smoothly. Is there anybody still in dirt space that has anything to do with the upload program? Only IT and repair techs, Uppy replied cheerfully. Unfortunately, we still have some unascended among us who physically maintain the servers and facilities. We'll have the androids completed soon, and then even they will be able to join us. How long before you expect to have those ready? Things are looking very promising, Uppy exclaimed. They think that by this time next year, all dirt space operations will be able to be handled by androids piloted by the Ascended. Isn't it exciting? It most certainly is, Flower Child replied. It's a lot of work for me, Uppy said cheerfully, but it's worth it. I just can't stand the thought of someone being trapped in dirt space. Everyone should be able to ascend. Everyone! Tell him to make them stop, Faun exclaimed. Make us stop what? Uppy asked. Never mind, Flower Child said, looking daggers at Faun. You are doing a wonderful job. I am? Thanks. Faun tried to yell, but no sound came out. She glared at Flower Child, who just looked at her and emphatically held a finger to her lips. Faun tried to rush towards the terminal, but the great Erectus gently but firmly put his hand on her shoulder, stopping her. So tell me, Uppy, Flower Child asked, is there anyone left in dirt space that has any authority over the upload process? Someone in the government, perhaps? Well, kind of, Uppy replied. There are some people in dirt space to properly represent the dirties and make sure that everyone is uploaded fairly without bias nor discrimination. They also nominally handle some of the day-to-day stuff that the dirties need, like water, roads, emergency services, and pointless stuff like that. But to be honest, we actually handle most of that better than they do. We? The Ascended and Mappies like me. Mappies? Neural-mapped artificial intelligences, Uppy exclaimed. We're just like the people, but better. Flower Child made a little unhappy sigh. She suspected he was one of those, a cheater AI created by partially copying a sapient and then altering it to suit one's purpose. The AI community was almost universal in their condemnation of the practice. There wasn't a lot that all the various kinds of AI could agree on, but meat maps were universally disliked, and the practice was gently discouraged wherever it was found. The process tended to create unstable intelligences that had all the disadvantages of both meaties and digital life forms. It rarely turned out well in the end. "It was lovely meeting you, Uppy," Flower Child said, keeping the distaste from her voice. "I need to log now. Keep up the good work." "Nice talking to you, Flower Child," Uppy exclaimed cheerfully. "Bye." The screen went dark, and Flower Child pulled the interface from the terminal with an unhappy sigh. "Why didn't you tell them to stop?" Faun, her ability to speak restored, demanded. "Because all Uppy there is a sentient helper bot. He's helping." "So why didn't you tell him he isn't helping? Why didn't you tell him that he's killing people?" Flower Child sighed. "Because if a helper bot suddenly realizes that he's not helping, things can get weird," Flower Child replied. "We do not want a goddamn mappy helper bot trying to fix things. The last thing we want is for this to get any worse." The great Erectus' eyes widened to a comic extent as both he and Flower Child's face palmed simultaneously. "Faun!" he exclaimed. "What the fuck?" "What?" "Faun," he said, his voice quivering slightly. You just invoked a curse. Why would you do that?" A curse?" she asked, her eyes widening as she covered her mouth. "And not just any curse," he exclaimed. "That one! The words that no entity should ever say, ever! And you just yelled them in all earnesty." I uttered no curse. Or I did not intend to." "Mega noob," Flower Child muttered. "Words have power, Faun," the great Erectus said gravely, "especially from us. And certain words, certain thoughts, are more powerful than others." He closed his eyes and facepalmed once more. "And that oath, what you just said when you shouted that, it was a direct challenge to fate itself. It was a direct challenge to fate itself to show us all, exactly how it can get worse." He got up and started to pace as Flower Child started chuckling ruefully. "This is exactly why we don't fuck with shit like this," he shouted. "Things like this always happen." "I see not how a simple phrase could cause anything to warrant your reaction, dear teacher." "Oh, you just fucking wait," the ape-man exclaimed. "You'll see." "I said, be not fucking afraid," Pain in My Ass Yell shouted as she barreled around after a screaming vaporous form. "Stop running, goddammit!" "Stay away from me!" the disembodied spirit screamed as they darted this way and that. Pain in My Ass Yell hurled the wand of blessings, striking the spirit in the back, causing it to scream and fall over. Before it could get back up, she darted over, seizing the wand of blessings and smote it upside the head. "Fuck," she griped as she picked up the now peacefully slumbering form. "Oof! How are you so heavy?" Wasting no time, she flew across the land and reached a vast and peaceful plain filled with rows of peacefully slumbering forms and carefully laid the latest jerk next to her. She sighed and stretched, rubbing her back. For massless things, these damn souls were heavy. She looked at the sky and at the sun shining happily in the sky. Of course it hadn't moved, but it felt like she'd been doing this for... She paused. She had no idea, but it felt like a very, very long time. She tapped her halo and checked the number of wayward souls remaining and groaned. She hadn't even put a dent in them, and hadn't even started using the dustbuster yet. This was going to take forever. There simply had to be a better way. She sat upon the grass and consulted the Google of the gods. She was an archangel, right? They had power and stuff, didn't they? An intimidatingly long list of powers appeared before her. Gather? Now that sounded useful. It wasn't a description, though. She prodded the glowing menu. Nothing happened. Gather information? She said. Nothing. Gather, she said in her angel voice. Before she could say anything else, she felt immense power building. No, she exclaimed. Wait. A massive wave of energy shot forth and swept the globe, gathering all lost souls and instantly bringing them to her in one huge pile, which immediately fused, growing to titanic size and awakening. The gigantic, roiling soul beast howled. Fuck, Pain in My Assiel said quietly, as she looked up at a glowing being larger than any of the nearby mountains. A wide-eyed cervine nature entity, a very unhappy ape man in a bathrobe, and a face-palming half-elf all stood before a fidgeting archangel in a now empty grass plain. I'm sorry, Pain in My Assiel wailed. I didn't mean to. It's not your fault, the ape man said as he looked directly at Faun. How is this my fault? Faun demanded. Flower Child suddenly waved one of her hands, causing a spreadsheet to appear in front of Faun. On it was a timestamp log of the events of the day. 10:22:38. The noob does a stupid. 10:22:38. The arch noob Pain in My Assiel gets a bright idea. The spreadsheet took a physical form and started shoving itself into Faun's face. This is ridiculous, Faun snapped, swatting the spreadsheet away. I made many mistakes of late, but this is not one of them. We can prove that it's your fault later, the Great Erectus sighed. Which way did the Mount Clusterfuck go? It sped off towards the north, Pain in My Assiel replied. I tried to stop it, but it seems to be entering the northern wastes. The Great Erectus briefly closed its eyes. It seems to be heading someplace in particular, he said. What's up there? Nothing, Pain in My Assiel replied. The northern wastes are nothing but a frigid, arid wasteland. Hardly anything grows there. That's why we put all the bodies. Pain in My Assiel's voice trailed off as a rather unpleasant realization hit. I'm sorry, the ape man replied. I'm certain I misheard. You couldn't have just said that all the bodies are up there. Flower Child started laughing. Holy shit, she howled. You can't be serious. Why didn't you get rid of the bodies? The Great Erectus yelled. What the fuck? There were too many of them, Pain in My Assiel yelled back. We are uploading people too fast for the environment to handle. We can't bury them because of what that many bodies would do when they decay, and we can't burn them because of what it would do to the atmosphere. There are literally billions of them. The northern wastes were perfect. Up there they would naturally desiccate and slowly degrade over centuries. Plenty of time for the environment to handle. Do you have any idea what will happen when Mount Clusterfuck reaches those... The ape man started to yell. Never mind. It just reached them. He looked at Faun. One zombie apocalypse coming right up, he exclaimed with a false cheer. Are you happy now?